22 patches later, and we might be getting a polished version of what 4.0 Stellaris should have been. Let's check out the Dev Diary 388 and break down all the changes. Hello Stellaris community. Throughout the summer, we've been running an open beta with changes and adjustments to Stellaris 4.0, focusing on the wilderness origin, addressing player feedback and other actionable areas we identified with internal testing. The beta has been updated on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, and it currently contains a large number of changes and fixes we developed over the summer. It's getting to be about time to bring it live. That's right, over the summer, there's not been big dev diaries, but they've been slowly updating this beta rather than pushing more and more patches. Wilderness was a problem point. It's fun, but when you spend biomass, it goes crazy and the economy fluctuates, so hopefully they fix that. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who participated in the beta and shared their thoughts. Your input has been invaluable when it comes to improving and refining Stellaris 4.0. The 4.0.22 patch is a major step forward, bringing significant gameplay improvements and laying a more stable foundation for the future. We expect to release 4.0.22 next Thursday, August 21st, with a few more changes compared to today's beta update. If you're wanting to try this before next week, you can by opting into the beta by following these steps. Since this patch includes some hefty changes, I want to go over some of them that are coming. So we have the wilderness gameplay changes, but don't worry, there's a lot of other gameplays, bug fixes and stuff we'll be covering as well. As I originally mentioned back in Stellaris Dev Diary 386, we launched an open beta to test alternative mechanics for the wilderness origin and gather feedback. The original implementation included some erratic behavior, what I was talking about before, especially if your biomass totals got too low, sometimes leaving jobs unworked, what I was saying before. With the new system, all wilderness jobs are automatically worked by your primary species without requiring biomass assignment, and the economic sliders are now accessible, so you have better control over production. Here is the screenshot of that. Being able to control the sliders to reduce your input costs gives you more economic control during deficit situations. The only wilderness job with assigned pops is pileable biomass, as we can see in the screenshot. General gameplay remains very similar, but the system should be much more reliable and robust, and there should no longer be instances where you suddenly lose planets or the game when pops are killed. This is perfect. Okay, the main issue, if we look at the screenshot, was that we would just have 1 out of 1, basically. You couldn't adjust it, and you had to have the biomass working it. We no longer have any pops situated here, so as soon as you build something, it can be worked, unworked, you can change the scale. This is honestly the perfect solution because you want to spend all your biomass. You don't want to pile up and think of the imaginary number that your planets need to actually be working, and it goes weird because I've had situations where 400 biomass was working 400 jobs when only 1 should be working it because they get a multiplier of 1,000 workforce. We're no longer getting that. Now we may as well load up the beta since we can and see if workforce actually applies to this even though there's no pops. I've whacked on Agrarian for more farming job output, job efficiency, intelligent for research and job efficiency, and we are getting the extra for the food as well as the tech. So even though there's not a pop working there, it appears the species traits will still apply, which is pretty nice. All around, massive positive changes for that origin. It won't be frustrating to play because it's a really unique playstyle, which is my favorite origins. There's other major gameplay changes. There are a few other changes in this patch that I wanted to highlight as they have significant impact to how the game plays. This is huge. The AI should no longer ever stall during certain points of its development and should continue scaling its growth all the way through the end game. So a lot of the complaints is that the AI are basically brain dead and they suck. After a certain point, they just don't develop planets properly. Hopefully that means they will. We'll have to wait and see. So we need to do lots of games to see if they do, but hopefully they do. Grown pops are now added directly to civilians, maintenance drones, or unemployed slaves. This prevents over-specialized worlds from having a constant trickle of unemployed specialists stuck in demotion, and speeds up automatic migration from crowded planets. As part of this, we've changed the orange briefcase on the outliner to show planets with a large number of civilians or unemployed pops. The red briefcase of extreme unemployment will naturally take. So how does this work? Well, whenever we had human specialists grown, they would grow into specialists. As we can see here, we have lots of specialists here, but there's no room for them to work, so they just go as the unemployed specialists. However, in the new system, they would instead immediately grow into the civilian pool, which means you don't have to wait however long this demotion time is, making them unhappy. They will just go to civilians. This means as well the civilians will migrate quicker, and it also means we're not going to have orange briefcases everywhere like we have here, because they they will only show out a surplus of civilians, which they don't say what the number is, but it won't be as annoying because I don't know where planets are free, really. Like one civilian here, but there's just so many specialists. Yeah, it's not great. Speaking of unemployed slaves, except for some cases such as slaver guilds, will now demote to unemployed slaves. Unemployed slaves are present in the worker stratum and no longer require special buildings to automatically migrate. They are permitted to do so by their species rights. Unemployed slaves are not actually unhappier than employed ones and do not contribute towards unemployment events, but are clearly visible as wasted resources. This was huge. I tried to do a slave build a couple videos ago and I couldn't see the pops that were unemployed slaves. It was insane. I don't know how that slipped through, but now you can actually see where they are and they don't have negative consequences for being unemployed, but you do want to work them, of course, and they can auto migrate, which is great. You don't need to build that building. Huge changes for the evil players. Amenities have been rebalanced, with the housing building now no longer nearly always being the optimal choice. I need to see this. Okay, so luxury residents give 1,500 amenities, which is still decent. I can't actually remember what it gave before. So it was giving 2,500, so it's been nerfed by 1,000 amenities. And now hollow theaters do give 1,000 more. This is better. Essentially, do you want more amenities but use pops to work these? Or do you want your pops to work elsewhere and get slightly less amenities? I still think the residence is good. The hollow theaters are slightly more viable, but pops are really important. So I might still say that luxury residents are better, but we'll have to do some testing in game to see how this feels, how this plays out. Command limits on fleets have been generally increased in order to reduce the number of fleets in the endgame. Fleets are currently believed to be the largest source of mid to late game performance issues, and today's update includes some optimization to combat targeting and ship upkeep. We're going to aggressively continue to look for ways to improve this. Okay, this is huge. I have said for how long you can go back in videos that fleets are the issue, not pops. I've always said this, and it's glad it's actually been addressed by the devs now. The issue is we have such big numbers, we can create massive fleets, and each fleet is simulated by itself. And it simulates the hangars firing, each laser if it hits. It's insane when you get later on in the game. Having bigger fleets, I think, will help because you can cram more into them, and I believe the calculation for pathings will be helped with that. The optimization for combat targeting and ship upkeep probably helps too. I did see a post saying the logistics cause lag, but then there's people saying that it doesn't cause lag. Maybe this is about that, I don't know. Generally, looking at optimizations to the game is good because it's not quicker than 3.14. Strategic resource production in general has been significantly decreased, with the new district specializations added for mining, generator, and agriculture districts tied to special planetary features. I don't know what that means. However, the refineries now give 0.1 per 100 jobs. Yikes. How much of a nerf is this? Yes, we're getting +2 in the current system. Down to 0.1 is insane. That's a negative 200% nerf. It's needed though. We had way too many. I don't hate this change. I do not understand the planetary specialization because we still have energy research support. I guess it's not talking about those. Let me know in the comments what that means. I haven't got a clue. Branch officers have also received a balance pass. Again, I have not a clue what that means. I think it goes into more detail in the notes, which we will go through. The 4.0.22 release also contains a huge number of bug fixes, optimization, balance changes, and stability improvements. Perfect. Hopefully these significantly improve the game. Here's the preliminary release notes. We will go through them briefly. We have gone through the wilderness changes, the civilian changes. Planetary automation no longer actively tries to keep some civilians around. I didn't even know they did that. I've been avoiding planetary automation because even in 3.14 it wasn't the greatest. Improved planet modifier tooltips, so they display a better source than from buildings. Perfect. More readability. The technologic ascension perk now unlocks research policies, allowing you to increase the draw rate for technology categories. Added research? No, not my tech ascendancy, my beloved. There's no research speed. No. So we get research focused policies, chance for rare technology research options plus 50%. That's significantly improved. Let's look at these policies. Okay, so we have physics research focus, society research focus, and engineering research focus. Physics has the least. I did not realize physics only had 3. So general studies gives 10%. Okay, so we keep our 10%. Okay, it's fine. We did overreact, but if we go into a different field, we're more likely to get that chance, but the research speed stays the same. So it's literally just for draws, but you lose the general research speed, which sucks. Am I wrong? Shouldn't this research speed be quicker if you're specifically going for that? So if we did go into field manipulation, how often can we change it? Every 10 years? This sucks. Don't change it unless you're really trying to focus down a specific focus. The fact it doesn't give you more research speed and you can't change it for 10 years, not great. Essentially, this is the same, because in the last update, it gave us 10% research speed and 50% rare tech chance, which was the same. I am stupid. For some reason, that looked bigger than normal. That's what she said. Added research restriction policies, allowing you to massively reduce the chance of drawing dangerous technologies. For example, if you wanted to use automated research without researching these technologies. Added the refactored restrictions to the ethical guideline refactoring Galcom resolution, which increases the draw chance for dangerous and red techs. That's cool. A bit of Galcom love. Added demands to the technologist faction pertaining to research restriction policies. Okay, so some faction love too with the new policies. This is just something people have been going on about for a while. Essentially, chance for dangerous technologies isn't 100%, but it also reduces rare tech chance options, which is a bit weird. I guess you need to nerf it a little bit. Dangerous techs don't really matter unless you've gone BioGenesis and still want to auto-research, and it can clear out the pool a bit. All repeatables. Good quality of life change. Some balance. The arc finish no longer decreases in mineral output as it increases in alloy output. The stages are now 1 mineral, 2 mineral, 2 mineral alloy, 2 mineral, 2 alloy. I did not realize it went down. Apparently it did. I didn't think the arc furnace needed a buff, but there we go. Update the broadside stingers to correctly follow the 24, 36, 48 small slot equivalency for their weapon slots. The younger stage now has more medium slots, but fewer larger slots, while the adult and elder only have larger slots, so a bit of a change to stingers. Not too big of a deal. Cypher Mauler has given up 2 of its smaller weapon slots in exchange for 2 point defense slots. Okay. 20% of the habitability ceiling reductions from shattered ring blockers have been moved to the more easily cleared ancient rubble blockers. Buff to shattered ring. Very nice. Shattered ring origin now starts with 2 additional scrap mining districts. Another buff to shattered ring. Just more habitability and more mining districts off the start. The diplomatic tradition, the Federation, now also gives 25% progress in the Federation code technology. Small buff to that tradition. That is now the worst tradition probably, because you never really need to go it, because you can get Federation tech from the Society tree. The Holo Museums, acquired from the Creator Enclave, now swap entertainers to creators. These jobs produce Unity and amenities, with each Holo Museum adding additional job upkeep and output. Holo Museums can now be constructed in research and resort specializations. Finally, these buildings are improved by the Archeo Engineer's Ascension perk. Just a small buff to those when you're collecting specimens, put it more in line with the 4.0 jobs, changing the jobs over. Collector Creator Civics also swap entertainers to creators, same sort of thing. Substantially increase the base command limit of fleets and most horses of command limit. We know you were going to doom stack those fleets anyway. I wanted to actually check out how much this is increased, but I agree. If this reduces lag, I don't think it matters. If the fleets are huge, it also means less leaders. 60, 50, 40, 30, 20. Whereas before the tier 1 was 20, so that's the same. But tier 2 was 20. They were all 20. Okay, so it just scales the higher tier. I like that. And then the repeatable, is that repeatable? It's plus 10, whereas the repeatable is now plus 20. I like that change. This is probably scaled similarly in other sources of fleet command limit. The charismatic and repugnant traits now additionally provide job efficiency modifiers for elite strata and biotrophy jobs. Go forth and pamper the galaxy's most adorable creatures. Nice, so that's a nerf to repugnant and a buff to charismatic, because it's going to apply to more things. Repugnant reducing amenities from elites is quite bad, so repugnant might not be S tier anymore. Decrease amenities granted by housing building, as we've already seen. Reactor boosters now give a percentage boost to reactor output. That's interesting. Okay, so the reactor boosters give a percentage and no flat output. There's going to be a graph. Some nerd's going to make it. Monty at what this actually means. If I was to guess, bigger ships are going to benefit more from the reactor booster, because it's a percentage, and the bigger the ship is, the bigger the reactor is as well. But that's very interesting. I don't think it's that worthwhile, but like, we've got 1,000 positive power here, which is giving us 6% evasion, 6% speed. It's not that big of a deal. Later growth stages of biological ships now have an inherent reactor output percentage boost. That's very nice, because power is a struggle with those biological biological ships, so the bigger they are, hopefully they get a bit more power, so you don't have to put reactor boosters on if you don't want to. Rebalance trade policies. No! My trade spam. How could they? Wealth creation is 50% trade, 50% energy, which was the same. Consumer benefits, 50% trade, 25% consumer goods, with a 25% conversion tax. No, they're taxing us! And it's the same all the way down, except for mutual aid having a conversion tax. So essentially you're paying a bit of trade for these. I don't think it nerfs it that much, but it certainly slows you down. Strategic resource and planetary special feature balancing. Assorted planetary features that gave rare crystals or exotic gases from technicians now applied to miners or farmers respectively. So it applies to all of them? Oh no, they've switched them around. Okay. Added new district specializations for strategic resources and some special features. This is what they were talking about. So there's rare crystal extraction for mining, motes for generator, gases for agricultural, and the central spire district specialization for the urban districts of certain relic worlds. Breathian processing district gives additional miner jobs, reducing the strategic resources. Yeah. This is okay. Good balancing, I think. Minor artifact costs of ancient refineries gone up, and strategic resource costs and upkeep for several research buildings. I don't know if you needed to also increase the cost of those if you're decreasing the input. Maybe do one at a time, but strategic resources are going to be a lot harder to come by and more valuable. Increased job weight for genomic researchers, so they work them. Yep, you have to go through and favorite them all normally, which is annoying. Knights of the Toxic God balancing. Oh, night jobs now receive a 15% base upkeep increase whenever they unlock a quest reward that increases their base unity or research output. This is smart change. The main issue for Knights of the Toxic God is getting the consumer goods to upkeep their insane output. Hopefully this does enough to make sure you actually have to devote some time and planets and resources into consumer goods. The impact of night jobs on the speed of the quest situation has been reduced, slows your scaling down. Squire jobs now also grant a slight increase to the upkeep of night jobs, also very good. Knights of the Toxic God might not be super OP and might be slightly balanced now. It's probably still really good, but the costs and the speed of which you can do it has been nerfed. The environmental integration tradition now gives a maximum habitability of 175% for species with mutagenic habitability trait by default, down from 200. I didn't know it gave 200%. Where is environmental? Where is that even from? I thought it was an adaptability, but it's not. I don't know what that is, but they've nerfed it. Mutation authorities now allow all organic species to reach maximum habitability of 175%. Oh, I understand. We can't go to 200% habitability anymore. The max is 175%. But you get bonuses for every 10%, so you only get 170% worth. Okay. Mutation authorities combined with the environmental integration tradition now also allow all organic species to reach a maximum habitability of 250%. What? So to get the huge habitability bonuses, you need to go mutation. The environmental integration is one of the picks that you get while you're going. I understand now. So basically you just don't always want to auto pick that, because you could grab that tradition, then go cloning, and you get 200% the same as mutation. But now, if you want the huge habitability bonuses, up to 250% by the way, you need to go mutation at the same time. I get it. I don't mind that. Half the effects of species genetic purity for the following jobs. Oh, purity's been nerfed. Job efficiency, happiness, trade, unity, lead lifespan, XP cancel, gen speed. Yeah, purity's been gutted a bit. Increase the trade per 100 pops from the spare organ trait for organ nursery to 0.5. Nice. Basic cloaking field generator no longer requires exotic gases. Every time I do a cloaking only build, that is huge for it, by the way, because it's really hard to get the gases early on to actually go and cloak and kill stuff. I love that. However, advanced cloaking field technologies now require access to exotic gases. There's some more polish for resort worlds. Nanotech research facilities at the cap. I'm sorry. A lot of these I feel like are my fault. Nanotech research job swaps now have innate nanite upkeep. Oh, huge nanite researcher nerfs. Nano research facilities now only affect engineering jobs, another huge nerf. The situation progress awarded for Evolutionary Predator empires when they discover alien genetic material in events now increases the situation by 5, 10, and 20% rather than static values. That's pretty nice. Slavery updates. We have gone over that. Increase the threshold for rising unemployment. That's quite good. Unemployed slaves do not contribute. Added coastal hamlets district specializations for empires that are both anglers and agrarian idle. These give angler, pearl diver, and trader jobs, 35 of each, and accept both agricultural and urban buildings. The starting aquaculture district specialization is replaced with this if you have an agrarian idle. That's interesting. I don't know how good that is, but angler, pearl diver, and trader is nice. Subterranean urbanization district specialization now grants 75 miners and 75 trader jobs per district. Ooh, a subterranean buff. Aquaculture district specialization now gives 75 angler and 75 pearl diver jobs per district. Was 100 anglers, so they've nerfed that. Agrarian villages district specialization now grants 75 farmers and 75 traders, up from 50 of each, so a small buff there for agrarian idle. Harmonized triggers for draw weights for farming technology. I don't know what that means, but sounds like a buff. And then we have a whole host of bug fixes. A lot of AI stuff like building limit calculation that was causing incorrect removal of buildings. Fallen Empire trade buildings should no longer self-destruct. Yep, I've felt that before. There's just a lot here. A lot of bug fixes. If you want to go through them all, you can. Link is in the description for the dev diary. There are so many tooltips there. And then there's a bunch of AI changes. Hopefully that increases them. We will see when we play. And then there's a bunch of stability and performance. So hopefully a lot of the outer sync stuff in multiplayer is fixed. Hopefully the game runs a lot better. And then we've also got UI stuff, which is probably quite interesting. A lot of fixing of overlapping, district tooltips, the briefcase, of course, and then some modding stuff. And then there's also some stuff that won't be in the beta, but will likely be in 4.0.22. Like logistic drones now give a base output of 6 trade and 500 amenities per 100 jobs. It was 4 trade and 250 amenities. That's huge. However, they have an upkeep of 2 energy or 2 minerals for hives. I don't know about that upkeep, but amenities was an issue for Gestalt. There's more job weight for logistic drones. The base amenity of the deployment post has been improved, and further adjustments on strategic resource balancing. Refinery buildings now add 0.25 strategic resource income to industrial jobs at the cost of 1.25 minerals or 2 food. Mill harvesters, gas extractors, and crystal mines now give 0.5. Oh, so they buffed it. So in the beta, people must have said that's too low. A few more bugs and more performance. Now what's next? Dev diaries will now return to their regular weekly schedule until we switch to a twice a week before Shadows of the Shroud. Next week, I want to discuss our plans for the future and highlight new content developed over the summer in response to your feedback since 4.0 launch. In the meantime, we're still committed to bug fixing, stability, and improving performance. Here is a preview of some of the changes that we've made to the Planet UI. Aquaman has been helping us improve the Planet UI. A particular change is expected to release alongside Shadow of the Shroud in 4.1. Let's give it a look. This looks so much better. I mean, first off, it's more condensed, especially the population screen, but we have a monthly pop growth summary, which we've been missing. We didn't know what the total growth was, the migration, the assembly, who's on this planet. I like that a lot. That's what I love about the Paradox devs for Stellaris. They're constantly improving. 4.0 was a mess. I think everyone knows that, but we're going to get there. I feel like 4.0 will eventually be better than 3.14. Maybe not 4.0, but like 4.x will be. If you enjoyed this video, check out this video that YouTube's recommended you. Click it now.